comfortable because we're about to change things a little bit. Back to you, Caroline.
So we did give you a fair warning. So we are about to spend an entire day talking about mini-grids. So you're either extremely committed to the sector, or let's face it, you're probably here by mistake, right? But I think we can all agree, mini-grids are entering a really critical phase, and it's a very important moment for mini-grids, right?
It's true. Only a few years ago, mini-grids were seen as isolated, ad hoc, or even last-mile solutions. But today, mini-grids are considered essential infrastructure within national electrification strategies. An analysis of national energy compacts from 29 African governments has shown that expectation that mini-grids specifically will serve 38% of M300 goals, that is about 115 million people. At the same time, the path to scale remains complex. Deployment is still slower than it needs to be. Financing remains challenging, and the path to scale is really not straightforward.
Indeed, Najwa. So across Africa, mini-grids are really entering their critical phase. After more than a decade of piloting, testing, I mean, the question remains, like, why is it not really working yet, as it should be? So the challenge is no longer about creating markets, but it's really about creating markets that function at scale. This means looking more seriously at developer execution capacity. It means aligning financing instruments with how projects are actually being built. It means linking electrification to demand and productive use. And it also means moving beyond this on-grid, off-grid binary and towards more integrated energy systems. And then obviously, finally, it means more coordination among us and those people in the room, and obviously the sector. So really we have to start thinking about energy as a system and no longer energy as a sector. So this is exactly what today's workshop is designed to explore, and the structure of today really reflects that progression. So without further ado, obviously today we are hosting this workshop as part of the Energy Access Investment Forum. So I would like to invite the CEO of the newly rebranded Alliance for Renewable Electrification, David Lecoq, to come and say a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Caroline. Bonjour, good morning, everybody. Karibu. Just before having 2 words of introduction, I was quite curious. Si vous parlez le français, vous pouvez lever la main pour voir qui en majorité. That's quite a lot of francophone people. And les anglophones, the English speakers? I was going to do my remarks in... I was hoping there would be more francophones, but okay, fine. Mes excuses pour les francophones, après on peut le parler en bilatéral. So, good morning, everybody. My name is David. I think you've seen me before, left and right, running around. So on behalf of ARE, now indeed the Alliance for Renewable Electrification, I'm very happy to welcome all of you to the Mini-Grid Day, hosted by our partners here, presented by the colleagues. We are really happy to feature this as part of AIF because, of course, as you have seen from the presentation yesterday, mini-grids have always been since 20 years and remain an integral part of what ARE is doing and will continue to be doing. So, if I look at the past, we have more than 10, if not 15 years ago, together with the colleagues at GIZ and elsewhere, developed the first mini-grid policy toolkit. A lot of countries had adopted that one. There was a mini-grid energy partnership, also represented here today. Productive use of energy, helping the launch of Electrify at the European Union. So really quite a lot of things. And so what I wanted to stress this morning is to say this strategy that we have presented yesterday is precisely and perhaps first of all targeted at you, the mini-grid crowd, whether you are a developer, investor, technology provider, because the whole idea is to expand the markets, that you are working on classic energy access issues, but that you are also tackling new markets and thereby are able to consolidate your business. If you can build mini-grids, you can build CNI systems, you can build systems that the grid becomes the off-taker of. And in that way, complement or offset the reducing reliance on donor funding. Let's be honest, that is a big elephant in the room. So with that, we really hope that your journey will continue with us. We invite you, of course, to work with us, as I mentioned yesterday. And a big, big thank you to our partners here at the UNDP and colleagues to make all of this happen. Have a great day. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, David. So just so we can understand the diversity of people in the room, can you please stand up if you are a mini-grid developer? Great, that's quite a few of you. Please stand up if you work for the government or are engaged in the regulation space. Excellent. On the finance sector? Okay. And finally, please stand up if you are working on the technical assistance side. Technical assistance. Excellent.
Okay, fantastic. So I can see we're relatively bunched together. That's quite representative of how the market works. So we want to make sure that the tables are a little bit more integrated. So we did warn you at the beginning, but if we could switch up, and I saw some of the developers are seated at the back, I really need you guys to split and join one of the tables because your perspectives are really important. And I do think we have quite a few other developers who are not here yet. So maybe AMDA colleagues send an urgent text to get them in the room. They're on their way, I promise. But if we could do a little bit of a switch around quickly, I'm sorry, but it's really important because today is all about discussion and it's about actually having those hard conversations together. So we will, it does make sense to split. But it also makes sense because we do have a lot of French speakers. So if the French, les francophones dans la salle, vous êtes où? Ici? Et ici. OK. Donc, si on peut mélanger les deux tables, là et là, ça serait génial, parce que vous êtes tous dans les gouvernements, non? Ah ouais. Donc, on va mélanger un peu avec le table là-bas. And for the English speakers, I think we can just do a bit of a switch. So there's a lot of TA here that should be moved around. So I'm really sorry. If we could do that, that would be fantastic. It will give you 5 minutes to sort yourselves out. But this is also a great opportunity to say hi and introduce yourselves. Yeah.
I love your,
Getting people uncomfortable.
your natural flair. You're natural. Not often you see that really well.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You too. You too, I am.
Yeah, I think on the Francophones they always must feel a bit.
I know, they always feel left out. We had to do this primarily in English, but all the other sessions have been in both.
No,
and I always make it effort to speak
I
in
don't
French.
take that like that, but I know a lot of
also because I'm an Anglo side, so it's good I make an effort, you know?
Let's keep in mind for the future, maybe we do something specific for the Francophones.
Yeah, we do in the we have to have a chat because I think we're having a meeting, right?
We're having a lunch.
Exactly, we're going to be even more integrated next year.
Yeah.
But I loved this year, fantastic.
Yeah,
Your team's incredible.
Blast it.
I think this is being blasted. So weird. Okay, this is a meet and greet. Okay, where are our developers? Could you raise your hand, please? The developers in the room? Theo, you're a developer. Developers in the room? The music's getting a bit chaotic, but really? Developers, okay, we're going to split you. Developer, please sit one developer at each table at least. No sitting together. Lamida, that includes you.
At least one developer.
Yeah, one, two. No. Oh, but no, Lamida's there. It says, sit with you over here. You can sit with the, oh, we've got Shannon. Yeah, perfect.
We need a French-speaking developer on this side.
This is a good table to be at. We have IFC at this table. Developer. We have Sefa and IFC. Come on, you want to be here.
I need to develop the government here.
We need a government. You probably want to be here as well. TA probably, yeah, you know. UNDP, good. Okay. So I think we've kind of moved around a bit, and hopefully you've also had a chance to say hi, and we've kind of broken the ice because these workshops can be. Yes, Stephen? Someone with money? Okay, we need someone with money at this table. We need a developer here, and we need a financier over there. One of the, Benjamin, I see you at the back. Maybe we should. We need a financier over here. We need someone who's providing the funds over at this table. And we need a developer over at this table. Oh my God.
All right, colleagues, if you could please be seated.
No, you don't need to put that. I was just like, for a second I had a bit. Okay. And where is he? Tell him to come here now. Shamake from Tamaso, are you in the room? Okay, he can't sit next to you. He has to sit somewhere else.
All right. So if I can invite you to scan the QR code on the screen for today's agenda. We're going to walk you through the agenda, and today we'll begin this morning by grounding ourselves in what the market is actually asking for. Hearing from AFDB, CEFA, and AMDA on developer priorities and what recent demands for support tell us about where the market really is. We will then move to session number 2, focused on what it takes for developers to scale, not just technically, but institutionally and financially. Session number 3 will look at the integrated electrification system and the evolving role of mini-grids within national energy planning. Last but not least, we'll close with session number 4 by looking ahead to the future and what more market-led model and technical assistance could look like.
So before we move actually into the agenda, I'd just like to make one final point. This session today is really not intended to be another talking about ambition and what we're all going to do in the abstract. It is intended to be really practical, honest, sometimes maybe a little bit uncomfortable, and we're going to be focusing on what needs to change, but not in the next 10 years, but really in the next year and in the immediate short term. We really have an unusually strong mix of people in this room, and people that are genuinely working every single day to shape the sector. If we use that well, today could actually be really valuable, given the people in the room. It's an opportunity to have those conversations we don't have anywhere else, and we really do need to use this space for that. So let's really make the most of it. Let's have those conversations. We have table facilitators that will be able to report back. And hopefully all of these ideas and what's discussed today can then inform how we're designing TA to make sure it's appropriate moving forward. So I'd like to thank you all for being here. It's really our pleasure to host you this morning. And I really look forward to hopefully what's a constructive dialogue. And with that, thank you. Yes, you can applause. Who started that? That's fine. So with that, I would like to welcome our first speaker, talking about people who are really working every day to shape the market and who represents a big cohort of developers. Lamide, please come. He's the CEO of AMDA. Could we give him a warm welcome? He's going to share really insightful, really what's happening on the ground. So over to you, Lamide. Would you like to stand up here or? Could we, oh, who's got the clicker? So we have some slides. There's a limited amount of slides, but they're very useful.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's had their coffee. I will try not to bore you too much with the 17 action points for mini-grids to play their rightful role in achieving Mission 300. I know everyone's heard so much about Mission 300, what it seeks to achieve. It's an ambitious target, and it's in my 2.5 years on this job, it's the first time that I've seen almost like a syndication of all the major players coming together to be more strategic to achieve this target as quickly as we can. I would be extremely rude not to acknowledge our hosts, the Alliance for Renewable Electrification. Well done for the excellent work you're doing, and the partnership that we seek to achieve this target. So very well done, David and team. Thank you very much. Round of applause for them, please. And to General Caroline, who is extremely diligent. You guys have no idea how hard she works to bring all of you guys in the room and make you guys feel comfortable. So very well done. I'm low-key scared of you, but I kid. Today we're talking about the 17 major actions for mini-grids to catalyze the achievement of Mission 300. And by extension, really, the electrification and industrialization of our beloved continent, Africa. I think the numbers here, they go without saying. I won't bore you with the highlights, but Mission 300 seeks to achieve a significant percentage of the global electrification gap, close the electrification gap in Africa. And we did an analysis of the national energy compacts. And what the governments have said is that mini-grids will play a significant role in achieving at least 40% of this target. But that requires a lot of concerted efforts. If we do an assessment of what that represents in terms of connections, that's about 23 million connections, assuming a 1 to 5 per person. And so far to date, we have 30 national energy compacts which have expressed the global agenda for how we're going to achieve this target. And we worked closely with our membership. So my bosses really, they've said this is what the sector needs. And 29 companies, including non-AMDA members, so we're seeing a more broad sector alliance in this regard on what needs to happen. And I know the investment number is quite scary, 46 billion, assuming the top end of what we assume is a range of 1,200 to 2,000 per connection. So 46 billion is a heavy number. But not to scare you, it's a step in a process that we're going to get to. So currently, amongst the 29 companies that endorse this paper that we've published, which is available on our website for those who want to have a look and have a deeper dive, we have a current pipeline of about 2.3 billion. So if you're asking for what needs to be funded now, that is the target that we should be looking at as we scale up towards the 46 billion. And really and truly, I'm so glad that we have a good representation of governments in the room. For us to take the step in that direction, a lot of things need to happen this year. And that starts with governments creating the necessary frameworks, adopting what already is working. So you have countries that have taken the lead. We have Afur here, who has a tool that can help you achieve your regulations and all the frameworks within 24 hours if you wanted to. So we require strong will of governments to publish and provide regulations that can enable mini-grids to play their rightful role. So what we did was we leveraged the existing pillars of the Mission 300 compacts. We focused on capital mobilization, so 5 major points. industry capacity, 5 major points, and government environment, 5 major points. And then we have some cross-cutting enablers that cut across all the 3 pillars. So I'll start with the first pillar, which is capital mobilization. Under capital mobilization, what is very clear to us is that companies are evolving and they need scale. To achieve scale, we need to evolve from your typical project financing to more corporate level equity funding. So more patient capital to support these companies. So companies need to be funded, not just the projects. These are institutions that have various resources, requirements that are essentially multinationals operating in different nationalities. So they need to be funded at corporate level. And in addition to that, we're not saying that project finance is not required, but start looking at these companies as utilities in their own right, because we started to see the emergence of interconnected mini-grids. We started to see the emergence of metro grids in DRC. So mini-grids are doing more than just rural electrification. They're actually providing across the bases and supporting the grid as well as the lower end of the energy value chain. Second action is scale up local currency debts. I think it goes without saying that a lot of these companies are basically, there's a currency mismatch. Revenues are in local currency, but a lot of the funding is in hard currency, if you like. And so there's need for us to scale up more programs. Grateful to say that we're seeing the emergence of organizations like InfraCredit, Damana, and an emergence of a lot of local banks looking to invest in the sector, but there's a need for concerted effort to support commercial banking and local currency funding into the sector. The third one is creative concessional capital. So what I always say is let's focus on what works. The Nigerian Electrification project has done a great job in sort of catalyzing the emergence of not just the mini-grids, but local companies are now emerging and taking a significant chunk of the work that needs to be done to scale up electrification across Africa. And then the DARES program is an exciting one. Regional DARES is also there to support the other countries within West Ascent launched their fund yesterday, so there's a lot happening. But what we're asking for is speed, efficiency, and scale. The fourth action, obviously, rapid RBF deployment. Can we templatize what works and apply it and adopt it to suit the markets that they serve? And last but not the least is Mission 300 is not going to happen in just Nigeria, DRC, Madagascar, the usual suspects. It's going to happen everywhere. So there are countries that probably need a little bit more support in terms of their regulatory framework, the policies. And for the private sector to come in, there needs to be some support for market entry. So we've said we're not asking to create a new facility. Can we carve out a portion of what existing facilities to support market entry? Glad to see with the presentation for the World Bank a couple of days that is top of mind by the World Bank and AFDB, to name a few. The next is industry capacity. So we're not just asking for what we can do, we're also saying what we need to do. So as an industry, we know that we need more harmonized standards. We can't keep reinventing the wheel over and over again. And part of what we're going to do at the end of this session is to launch the health and safety standards, which we've developed for Nigeria, Zambia, and Kenya, and we'll be rolling out more. So harmonizing standards so we're not having to reinvent the wheel all over again every time. Modular designing, so in terms of the technologies, mini-grids are no longer an experiment. We know what works. We know how to right size. So how do we make sure that we're designing these to be replicable across multiple markets? Scale productive use. I think that goes without saying. Productive use is a big, significant a driver for the revenues and for the sustainability of the businesses. collaborate with AI and tech operations. We're seeing the emergence of efficient models for operation. So companies are now starting to adopt AI for their operations as well. And training and shared services, which we're getting support from CEFA, World Bank, ESMAP, to basically change the way technical assistance is done. So we're revolutionizing technical assistance. Under the government pillar, I think I've said this before the end of this year, it would be great that we report back to these sessions and say that we've had, out of the 30 national compacts, all regulations are developed. So there's a need for urgency, and we're happy to support in that journey along with AFUR. Commercially viable business returns, incentives need to be created to ensure that companies can charge a cost-effective tariff. We have a tariff tool built with the African Forum for Utility Regulators as well. So let's see how we can adapt that. Larger tenders. So let's see how we can scale mini-grid projects and not have them isolated in different locations. Let's bundle them together. We're also seeing companies themselves collaborate and consolidate so they can achieve this faster. Capable institutions are required. I just spoke about consolidation. And last but not the least, balanced local content. Obviously, local content is an important feature for governments, but there's a need to strike a balance with local content. And then what are the cross-cutting enablers? Accountability. We as a sector need to do more in tracking our progress, in addressing what is not going well, and ensuring that we're efficient along the way. So let's not let perfection get in the way of progress. And allied partners, this one I'm very passionate about. For a very long time, we've seen energy access in isolation. Is there a way we can work with other industries, the telecoms industries, the agri-industry, the e-mobility industry, the data industry, because those will be, one, the major consumers of the power, and it would be extremely unwise if we're developing a pipeline of mini-grids without considering where it's needed the most. So there's a need to make sure that we're working with other industries through the industry association and at the various institutional levels to ensure that we're taking power where it's needed the most. So the critical path forward, develop regulations by the end of this year. This is a key KPI for us. Rapid scale replication of RBF models, we're seeing that already with the launch of Ascent, and front-load corporate equity. I'm excited by the launch of the Zafiri Fund because I feel like that will be a strong catalyst. Where AMDA is here and our members at the private sector are willing and able to work with everybody to achieve this very quickly. So I think I'll close on this side because my boss here is cracking the whip and move on to the next part of this session. But before that, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of our members who contributed to this paper and our partners who continue to support us. The second part of this is the launch of the health and safety standards, which we've developed with support from Carbon Trust, and our partners CLASP. And essentially, I won't go into too much detail. These are available on our website. But they aim to, we did an analysis of the health and safety standards in various countries, and we have observed some gaps. And we decided that it was important that AMDA takes the lead with support from the partners that I previously mentioned to provide a guideline and a reference point for health and safety. It's no longer a nice to have, it's a critical part of investment. So this is a toolkit that is available to all players, including developers, to ensure that you adapt the best practice in health and safety and make your projects more bankable. So I think I will stop there and go to the launch because thank you so much.
Lamide, are you happy to share the slides? We will share a copy. Yeah. Thank you so much. Can I have one more round of applause for Lamide? Okay, so now we're moving into probably what is the most fun part of the session, I hope. this is the first opportunity to actually have a conversation amongst us. I mean, we are really trying to have a dialogue here as much as we can. So as you can see, round tables, I'm very happy to see that we've got a full house. We have quite a few people at the back who've just arrived, but essentially what we're doing is we're having a conversation about hard truths from the market. Can I get a raise of hands on where the mini-grid developers are? Please just raise your hand if you're a mini-grid developer. Oh, we have way too many at this table. Okay, Shamaki, go and join another table, please. We need a developer at each table. So Shamaki, so raise of hand, developers one more time. I saw one at the back, not on a table. Please come over. If you're not at a table, you can come over as well. You literally find a chair, just pull up a chair. All friends here. So if there's if there's a table without a developer, we have a gentleman at the back. No, you're not getting another one. This is the, oh, here? Okay, another important point. We have two francophone tables. Si vous êtes francophone, s'il vous plaît, levez la main. Donc on a une table ici. Ok. Voilà. Oh non, ok, non, mais si vous parlez anglais aussi, vous pouvez rester. Ok. Dans les francophones, on a deux tables francophones. Ok, Lorraine, je sais pas si tu. Okay, in English. Okay. So I think we're actually pretty well sorted. And then finally, financiers, raise the hand. Oh, two developers. Any table without a developer? Okay, one here. Si vous parlez français, vous parlez français? Okay, parfait. And we have one more developer. It's really anyway. Okay, over here. Oh, perfect. Great. Oh, so we have two developers. Oh, that's all right. Okay, financiers in the room. Do we have enough of a mix? This is quite. Where are the financiers? I mean, okay, IFC. We're relying on you. It's all on IFC right now. Zafiri in the lead. This always seems to be the problem, right? Like the financiers are never around. I'm just joking. Okay, so I think that this is the big moment. So we're moving into the table discussion. So keep it respectful, guys. I mean, it's a tough sector. There's a lot of problems going around, but what we really want to talk about in this session is what is that one thing that every day it's making a big difference on the ground. You see it. You see that really interesting intel. Maybe it's the fact that female entrepreneurs are the best clients, the best customers. We've seen that. That's a big, important data point. Or maybe it's, energy of service related. Maybe it's anchor load related. But whatever it is that you're seeing on the ground, let's talk about it. So we have a lot of different perspectives at the table. We have a table facilitator. Can you please put your hands up, the table facilitators? They're the guys at the laptops, the guys and girls. We have a table facilitator. Our table facilitators are in charge of kind of moderating the dialogue a little bit, and they'll be reporting back. So at the end of this breakout group, the table facilitators will be invited to share that one key insight that everyone, hopefully we get consensus, kind of agrees that that's the big deal. And we'll go around the room. Maybe not everyone will get a chance to speak, I'm so sorry, but we'll choose maybe 5 and then like burning additionals at the end. So with that, enjoy. We have about 20 minutes to do this. Please don't be shy. And yeah, over to you for the conversations. Oh.
But you can tell
No,
them
no, no,
five so they have an
because-
extra.
Because we're doing the reporting back.
Yeah.
So the feedback starts at 10:25 normally. So it's 2 minutes left. But we can be a bit late. I'll
Okay.
just tell them. So we have about 5 minutes left. So let's make sure everyone has a chance to speak.
And a reminder then about the facilitator. We need one facilitator per table to report back.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do that?
I think they know that the facilitators know that. I hope they do know that. The facilitators got
And then you announce Robert, is he speaking?
Yeah,
Like,
I will announce what we're doing.
okay. And then photographer is good because he's taking some shots of people discussing, so that would be good for social media. Framing. Benjamin, okay, so here that's like introduction of.
Yeah,
Please join
we
me.
basically just, and then they kind of take over for the rest of the facilitation of that
Okay,
session.
so session 2 from pipeline to development. We don't have to say anything special about.
No, we just, they'll do that in their introduction.
Yeah, perfect, excellent. Do you want
Yeah,
me
so
to
the
do this
rest is
one?
really short. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't feel comfortable with the finance.
Okay, I'll do the financing.
Really, I don't.
No worries. Yeah, do that one. Perfect. And then the rest of the day should be easy.
I didn't want you to see.
Oh, sorry. We ruined it. And I'm like, whenever there's a picture, I'm like,
You're really good at these poses. Like really, like you're like camera ready all the time.
oh, no, I'm not. Trust
You
me.
know, I see myself in pictures, and I just noticed like I'm trying to be a bit more mindful about my posing because like I see myself in pictures, and I'm like,
I know. I trust me. I'm normally doing really, really, especially that one. Chill. Everyone calm down. By the way, this evening, unfortunately, we can't invite everyone. The AMDA is having the strict.
yeah.
So please join us. But I'm already over my quota, so I'm just going to be like nominated and stuff.
Ah, yeah,
So
no,
it's
sure.
just going to be me, you, Matteo, Oliver, and Steve. I can't invite more people, unfortunately.
Yeah, we missed
I'm
you so
taking
much
Sandra.
yesterday. We really missed you. It was a cool place.
I wish I was there, but anyway.
But it's fine. We can go other places. I think are you staying right for Friday? Friday the full day.
Yeah.
So Matteo is going to this amazing place. I think you'll probably go with him, right?
Yeah.
That is called Cultiva. It's in Karen, so it's a bit
Oh
far
yeah, I
away.
know it. It's like on Friday day.
Yeah, the day.
Oh, perfect. After the breakfast thing.
I think so.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then I'm not going because I have to prepare my suitcase and
cultivate
everything.
place, yeah.
Yeah, the cultivate place is the owner's from Ecuador. His name is Ariel. He's very
Yeah.
cool, and everything's from the farm to table basically. Hi.
How are we doing?
I'm sorry, I'm like more outside than inside, but I think it's been
If you
me.
see people out there, they'll get them in. The AMP people didn't show up. We have hardly any AMP people. What the hell?
Yeah, that just some arrived now.
The guy has so Umaru's phone was stolen right outside the hotel. Literally. Like he was looking for something on his phone, and then guys.
So now we do the next bit, yeah?
Okay, so let's start to wrap up the conversation. So table facilitators, please just take a moment to take the one key takeaway that you're going to share. No one's listening to me, but that's fine.
So we need to time it. Can't spend too much time doing it. So what time is Robert? These guys are supposed to start from 10:35, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. So basically,
I'm going to sit down. It's fine.
Okay. Sorry, there's a what? You good? One more minute? Okay, we've a desperate plea for one more minute. So it's really one more minute. Matteo.
All right. You're coming back.
Okay, we do have to have a bit of a hard stop, otherwise we're going to get into the coffee break and no one likes that. All right, so table facilitators, do you feel ready now to report what is hopefully one concise thing that we need to be talking more about and that the sector's overlooking? So yeah, I see people are still summarizing, but I think, all right, let's hard stop now, guys. This is a tough job, honestly. Okay, so let's go over to table facilitators when you're ready. Who feels ready already? Please raise your hand if you've got your one thing. Okay, Lorraine, over here. Okay, everybody, please. We're going back to the feedback. So now we have at this back table. Lorraine, what is the one hard truth that the sector needs to hear? Shh.
Merci à tous. Thank you so much.
Sorry, just Lamide.
Hi. Hello, Lorraine from UNDP. So we had a great discussion here. I want to thank my fellow table members. So we had. I'm sorry, I'm going to select only one thing that was said, but we had a lot of conversations around sustainability of operation. So the fact that mini-grids are being supported financially to be built, this is happening, but many mini-grids actually fail to operate in the long term. So a lot because of lack of financial viability, of also lack of reliability of supply, which means that PUE consumers cannot sustain their business. And also, so we mentioned also the need for RBF to not only support construction and new connections, but also operation in the long term. And we had also a really interesting contribution around the necessity for insurance for operation. Thank you.
Really interesting. Thank you so much. So absolutely critical. We need to make sure that we can actually sustain the mini grids that we're investing in. Let's go to Oliver's table over here.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. We had a table with a good mix of developers and governments, had a very lively discussion. I'm not sure we really came to a consensus on one thing amongst the table, but some of the things that came up were, from the developer perspective, smart meters and the metering crisis. This is creating some risk at the moment. The need to have a sort of reliable, well-formulated meter for mini-grids and to really have revenue assurance. At the same time, we had a government that said that prepaid meters were really quite promising and helping them, in their country, helping out the rollout of mini-grids. We had a discussion around tariffs from the government perspective, how regulated tariffs were creating a challenge in terms of viability of mini-grids and efforts to bring in subsidies, to bring in tax incentives, to bring that viability to a good level. Another government that was seeking to bring good regulations in for mini-grids, essentially feeling that the utility scale regulations were strong, but there's a need to now transfer that to the mini-grid sector. So, those were some of the things that came up.
Thanks so much, Oliver. Super interesting around the prepaid meters, especially today. And then, of course, of the regulation. I mean, that's something this sector we really know and what we're all aiming to really improve for DRE in general. Let's go over here because I saw some frantic Nashua SE for all table. They're really eager. So over here.
Yeah, so you throw the hat.
There you go.
Yeah. So we also discussed some of the points that were mentioned here, but one thing that came up and a lot of us agreed on was mini-grids are not just energy access projects, they're livelihood projects, and developers are not, they don't have the time, the capacity, or the funding to look at it like livelihood projects, because it doesn't just stop after the connection is established. There's always pressure to think about paying back the financiers, but the work still continues. They have to play the role of business mentors, local finance institutions, et cetera, and they're not equipped, they're not supported to do that, and that's one very hard truth that we discussed. And then, of course, we spoke about commercial viability, tariffs, and then after-sales support, customer satisfaction. There's really no time to look at customer satisfaction because there's 100 other things to do for the developers. I'll stop.
Thanks so much. That's a really big one. It's true. I mean, we do need to be thinking about how DRE fits into the broader development landscape. At the end of the day, it's a development issue, it's a development imperative, and that also talks back to roles and responsibilities. Who has the onus of responsibility there? It probably shouldn't be the developers. I'm not sure it's the financiers, so it's really going to be UNDP, isn't it? UNDP and SC for all, of course. So a bit of a shameless plug, but I had to do it. With partners, obviously. Who would like to go next? Please, Grace.
Thank you, Caroline. We also had a table with a mix of financiers, developers, and TA providers. And we also discussed some of the points that other colleagues have discussed, so I will not repeat those. But one of the things that came up here was the available funding right now is not flexible enough to address all the needs of the developers. The next thing was risk allocation. So developers bear most of the risks right now, and we had an example of demand risk and operational risk. Demand stimulation was talked about by other people, but also there is need for standardization of KPIs. I think those are like the most outstanding points we discussed, but of course happy to share the list of all the things we discussed afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And definitely risk allocation and sharing that risk is one of the main things that we need to do to really unlock the market and the sector for growth. I'd like to go over here now because we have an interesting table. Robert, over to you.
I have a microphone. Andrew here.
Oh, sorry, Andrew.
Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. Cheers. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everyone. So we had a good mix here of developers, government, and standard colleagues from CLASP. So there was a number of issues discussed. A lot of them, and some of them already mentioned. I will not repeat. But the key two ones I would like to highlight is, number one, is the mentality that mini-grids are always pushed to the rural areas, and with looking on the affordability space, while the main grid in towns are highly subsidized, while not the case. But what about the long-term affordability of the end users? So that was number one. Number two is, how can we think about streamlining permitting process across countries? So a developer, if you are developing a mini grid in RSC and you go to Malawi, you don't need to start from scratch. You just know exactly this is what is supposed to be done. That was something which was discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's a really important point. So mini-grids previously were mainly found in rural areas, but that is actually the core of what we'll be discussing later in the afternoon. We'll be looking at how mini-grids are now essential infrastructure, and they're really working to support the main grid, and interconnected mini-grids is a really good example of that. But also, so I'm getting some frantic hands over there. You want to go over there next? Okay, exactly. And then now I've lost my track of thought. Oh yeah, and of course the streamlining across countries. I mean, this is really why we're having these conversations, to make sure the TA that we provide and the support to the market can really be used then to support other countries. And we're going to get more into that in the next session as well. So let's go to this table because they've been quite passionate. Over Stephen.
Thank you very much. I think one very uncomfortable thing that came up is to let you, the facilitator, know that we cannot just give you one. It's an uncomfortable truth we need to tell you. That's one. And two is also to say, I mean, I was finding it very difficult to even say it myself because it's very uncomfortable. And it has to do with the fact that the targeting, that we don't give realistic targeting. So if we say we want to achieve 300 million collections by, say, 2030, is grounded on what? What type of data is it that are we grounded on? And it's also because of the fact that we do not probably have bottom-up approach in terms of the data collection and the integrity of the data. And that's one uncomfortable truth. Nobody is willing to challenge the data and the figures that are coming and the target that are set. That's one of the things. And which is also connected, if we have wrong targeting, then obviously we are not going to achieve those connections, those bridging the energy access gap, which is also linked to the whole issue around the discussion to move away from connection-based subsidy to kilowatt-hour-based subsidy. This is one of the conversations that many of us here, I cannot mention names, that we are not willing to have those connections because we are rushing to achieve our targets. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. So I love he went straight to the uncomfortable. And so who would like to defend Mission 300 in the room? And who set these targets? Don, you want to take the mic? We've got... no, absolutely. I mean, that's an important point. And I think that this is part of today as well. We need to be super realistic. I mean, at the end of the day, we're proving that they're working, but we're not proving that they're scaling really well. So that's really what we need to crack. Let's take it over here. Please.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and thanks for the applause. I love it. Let's do more of that. Like, when you hear something good, egg them on.
Yeah, hi. So our table was well represented by most of the people were from Ethiopia, so we got good insights from Ethiopia. And one thing that came out strongly was the need for integrated energy planning. So apparently in Ethiopia, most of the mini-grid projects are done by the government, so it's important to have the private sector involved and have enabling environment for the private sector. For the integrated energy planning was to ensure that mini grids are well integrated into the national energy system. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, that just sort of reiterates the need to have collaboration across all the sectors. And we can't have a dialogue without the public sector. We can't have a dialogue without the developers. And of course, all the planning needs to take all of these perspectives into consideration. I think we'll go...
I'm still
Samuel, I love how eager people are. Let's go to Samuel.
All right. My table is quite interesting. It had a perspective from Latin America as well as a perspective from Africa. So one of the main things that came about was community engagement. The perspective from Africa is that the time you engage the community at the start when you're designing the project, then you probably take a year to start your project. So by the time you've come on board, things have changed. The community can have changed their perspective. So we need to sort that out. From Peru, the idea on community engagement came about that there tends to be the community wanting to be involved in the construction, even if it's not possible, and things to do with local content. We also discussed the access to finance, most especially from local banks. There's a need for us to be able to access finance from the local banks in the local currencies. And lastly, there are two more. There's competition. We have to start talking about competition because mini-grids are becoming bigger. And so we have to talk about what does sustainable competition look like for the sector. And lastly, the shifting political wills of the larger countries that provide donor funding to mini-grids. We have to start looking at that because it's a reality we're facing, and so the ticket sizes are actually reducing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samia. That's a really interesting discussion. Actually, that is definitely not talked about enough, how critical the community perspective is in this. At the end of the day, it's not going to function, it's not going to work unless there's buy-in from the community. I think our Somalian colleagues do really well in that, actually. So we'll hear a bit more about how they're really involving the community to make sure that they even want the mini-grid in the first place. And then sustainable competition, another great point we don't talk about enough. AMDA, this should be something on the agenda. I think it's going to become more and more relevant. And that's what we want, right? Who else do we have? Over here, Robert. Oh, sorry. Matteo. He's my boss. I keep ignoring him. Take it. We can't take the mic away from Sefa again.
Not my boss. Anyway, I just think, I've gone big here. One of the sub-themes of this gathering was to listen. Okay, to hear the developers and what have you, but just to listen more generally. So we did. Other tables didn't. It says over there, one thing. Listen. Okay, but now I've lost mine. Look, effectively what we were saying, the thing that counted, we went through everything, but we put most of it aside and we focused on that one thing. And it was about maybe looking at it a bit differently, that these centrally planned, tenders and these sites with that technology and what have you, it's all very structured and there's not much headroom and breathing room, but actually maybe businesses don't work like that. And this is it's not supposed to be a service, it's not kilowatt hours, it is a service, it's not a technology. So maybe that's not a mini grid there, and maybe that's a solar home system, or maybe that's a grid connect or grid tied. So rather sort of, if you're going to define anything, define the parameters and the overall expectations, but leave the sort of business nuts and bolt decision making to the developers. So it's sort of less regulation. Obviously, there's kind of like tensions in that game. We spoke about standards and what have you. We need to sort of do no harm and what have you. But as much as possible, with specific expectations in terms of outcomes, we should leave the decision making, which is basically business development, to the developers. So that was our key takeaway.
Yeah, critical point, and also really evident by the way that a lot of the TA is moving towards that direction as well, and a lot of the support is going, we're talking about corporate equity all the time, so that the mini-grid companies can actually do, essentially their operations can improve. Really good points over there. So let's now go, Matteo, back here.
Obviously, our table didn't listen, and we have a long list of things. But I can summarize it in one key point, and I think a big message, Lamide for AMDA, because one key point was that we need more dialogue between governments and developers, and that is dialogue around the reality on the ground and information that is much more granular. So when we do the mini-grid assessments or when there are tenders, often the reality on the ground is different than what is on paper. So that relationship between developer and the government can help do reality check and have better engagement with communities. And secondly, the big question and issue that we discussed through many aspects is tariff setting and affordability. And also the risk of perception, and that developer wants to maximize revenue when actually they seek to have tariff reflective that can address the cost of deployment of those mini grids without generating a lot of revenue for the developer per se, but rather being cost reflective. So there needs to be a better understanding of how those tariffs are established, what is the cost of capital, and what measure can be brought to reduce that cost of capital. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Obviously, cost-reflective tariffs, at the end of the day, that's really one of the critical enablers for the market. And then over here as well, I meant to mention what Robert just said was really important. It's just reducing complexity, Sometimes the ticket size is not big enough to be so complex. And yeah, we go back to, we'll discuss that more in the financing session. So we do need to now move into the next part of this, the final part of the first part of the whole day of many parts. I'd like to invite now, in the interest of Oh, we've got one. I'm so sorry. One more table. 2 more tables. Oh no, I'm fired apparently. Amal's my colleague. You want to take over?
Where's your supervisor? Where's Mateo? She forgot us. I'm just kidding. So yeah, hi. We have also developers here. We have also technical assistant, and we had almost covered the same points, but we agreed that in order to have or to scale up the deployment of mini-grids, it's important to have an enabling ecosystem that would include different I think all the points that you have mentioned, for example, we were discussing having a clearer and supportive regulations where the coordination between different actors is usually a bottleneck at the country level, plus the licensing process. So many developers at some point, they just give up or sometimes the financing or the finance institution because there is no clear process in some local context. Linked to that is also the return of investment. We have discussed in order to have a good scale mini-grid that people would need to look at different models that would ensure the return of investment, but at the same time it would be also affordable by local communities. So having this equation is a little bit difficult, mainly with the current financing ecosystem where people are moving from funding to financing, and also this is linked to the local capacity, to the capacity of the local developers, because without having financial support, it would be difficult for local developers in many countries in Africa to compete with the global also developers. So we have to take also this into consideration between local versus regional or global. And the rest of the comments were already discussed by colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So quick summary, just the interplay between regulation, developer capacity, and obviously financing structures that fit and are not too complex. Final table, really quickly, Temitope. Anything that hasn't been said? Oh, we did it. Okay, good. So we can now move in. So in the interest of collaboration, I'd like to invite Robert Aitken he's the program officer for AMAP, and we will be giving, or is it first John? Who's first, actually? Yeah, okay, Robert, come over. Over to you, Robert. Can I get a round of applause?
Yes, okay. Hi there. So it's a quick overview because I thought it's about learning and sharing and discussing this whole day's workshop, and we're going to have some panel discussions. We're going to have many table-based discussions, and I just thought this might add some value, a little bit of a different sort of angle of insight into what developers want or what they need, because that's really what this gathering is all about. So we're going to discuss AMAP and the launch of AMAP 2, and we're going to celebrate. But I just want to give a quick insight into some of the technical assistance requested by developers who applied to be part of AMAP 2. So I don't want to go into too much detail about AMAP 2, but just maybe in a nutshell, it was a call for developers who were either applying for Pillar 1, which was a fairly large ticket of technical assistance to be implemented by themselves, or to Pillar 2, which was to have access to C-suite executive skills, particularly CFO and legal, on a part-time basis. So that said, I just thought it might be interesting to look at other way. Do I go that way? Yeah. Okay, so this was just quickly, I'm not going to go through all of these now, but basically this is what we sort of put out there. They said, look, do you need technical assistance under these sort of categories of service? And they could select, and obviously there was a budget, a limit, so people would prioritize both in terms of activities as well as the value of those activities. So I think it gave us a fair indication of what developers were prioritizing in terms of technical assistance. So most of it was project development. Okay, so basically I just last night added up the hits basically from the 19 people who applied for support under Pillar 1, and most of it was sort of 30% of the requests were around project development. And we looked at the earlier slide. There's various categories under project development, from licensing and regulation and site ESIAs and all those sorts of things. But that was the dominant sort of area of technical assistant interest, as well as then operation and maintenance, digital, demand stimulation, new markets, and business improvement. Look, I think new markets and project development might overlap a bit there anyway. But then maybe sort of another way to look at it is the funding envelope, so you could say, yes, I'm interested in project development, but on a very small basis. So that's not necessarily where from the overall envelope where the resources are going. So, but I mean, it did kind of confirm that anyway, but maybe in an exaggerated way. So actually about 45% of the envelope available, hypothetically anyway, was going to be spent on project development, and then the balance on the other activities. And then, so just the country focus areas. Obviously, each developer could be interested in more than one country or active in more than one country, but it is the usual suspects. You know, Nigeria, DRC, or Benin, Sierra Leone, Madagascar, and I think we'll go back to that table once we look at Pillar 2, because it does point out an area of concern. Okay, so quickly now, so what we offered under Pillar 2, which was more financial, sort of executive financial support, as well as legal, transactional advisory support, were these sorts of categories, from capital raising, financial modeling, all the way down to corporate structuring and transactional support. So this was a bit different, so it didn't give us that sort of, hopefully it was interesting insights, because everyone wanted everything. So it would just be one column blob, all the same type of thing. But so we broke it down in another way, and unfortunately not in a bar graph. But so there were 4 buckets of support requested: capital raising, investor readiness, financial modeling, controls and reporting, corporate and project structuring, and legal, regulatory and transactional support. And this with the purpose to achieve these 3 outcomes: to unlock capital, so fundraising, investor readiness, financial close; professionalize the business, governance, reporting and structuring; and build lasting internal capacity, with training systems, making sure that the 18 months of support leaves a stronger business and a lasting legacy. So those were the 3 sort of outcomes or objectives that we could discern from the applications received. And then those were the country focus areas, and then we bring them together, and it's still very much, from this cohort of 32 developers, and there's not that many developers, it's quite a significant, quite a substantial sum, that their interests are in the sort of the usual suspects, like Lamida said, Nigeria, DRC, Madagascar, Sierra Leone. I think I got that wrong, but it is, so I think it also suggests we've got to do a whole bunch of things, or target TA in certain areas and maximize impacts, etc. Look, there's a lot more information than this, and we will analyze the applications in greater detail, greater granularity, but just as a high level for now. But I guess it does say at least this, that if we are going to achieve the Mission 300, the 160,000 mini-grids, whatever, it cannot just be in Nigeria, DRC, Madagascar, etc. So I think that is all. Okay.
Thank you so much, Robert, and we're going to hear a lot more about that in the next session, so don't go anywhere. But first, we would like to invite AMDA, please. John Oku is the CEO for AMDA, because he's also going to tell us a little bit more about what the market wants. So I'm going to try to get the slides back here. Round of applause for John while I set this up.
Thanks. Bonjour tout le monde. Morning, everyone. I'm always lucky to be in rooms where different languages are spoken, because I speak 5 languages, and I am glad to be born Anglophone but adopted French. So my French brothers and sisters, welcome. So what I wanted to just, and I'm glad, Robert, you came before us, because we're going to respond to some of the findings that you found, from your investigations and surveys, and respond to those in terms of the outcomes that we look for in our programs. So what is our approach at AMDA? And how do we gather information? How do we gather information from our our members in terms of what they're looking for. Our approach is to listen to our members and then, structure these programs that correspond to their demands. One that we found was CEO roundtables. That is, an opportunity for CEOs to come together and share insights among peers. The most experienced CEOs, less experienced CEOs share insights on how to build some of these businesses that they build. Country visits. We do a lot of country visits. I think we went to DRC, Madagascar, and other countries. Ad hoc surveys. Ad hoc surveys is surveys we give to our members, ask questions, get answers, and that also gives us opportunity to model our programs. And then market coordination sessions. I think those are important as well, because there we get a lot of insights from our members, and the feedback we get from our members help us build our programs. So, what are the emerging priorities that we saw from our members? One, access to affordable capital. I think that has been mentioned, and on, and in every panel that I go to, one of the main issues is usually how do you access long-term patient capital into the sector. Second one, redefining RBF. And I think Lamide mentioned that one, and we are glad to have Ascent, coming up with new ways of doing RBF and standardizing RBF across the sector. And then TA programs. TA programs, we want also to redefine TA and see what exactly our members, developers need, and not this TA that is defined in closed offices and then pushed to members to accept. And then the third one is smart metering. Smart metering, I think, was mentioned here again, and it came up, during the discussion tables. We have, and then the last but not least, the perceived sector risk. Risk was also mentioned, and I know AC4All is working on something that we're going to also to be part of in terms of redefining risk and kind of segmenting risk in this sector so that the perceived risk in mini grids is, once and for all done away with. Now, out of those challenges that our members, shared with us, we came up with some programs, and I'll just go through them very, very briefly. One of them is the AMDA Capital Connect. Now, AMDA Capital Connect is a program that matches developers and investors for a period of about 8 weeks, and then culminates into a session of pitching where developers pitch to a panel of investors. We've had 2 cohorts for the moment. 20 developers have participated, about 300 million being raised across 14 countries, and 3 deals have been closed thanks to the AMDA Capital Connect. The other one is the Mastering Finance series. I think you mentioned that earlier. And this has been largely through the support of our AFDB CEFA, where we have held 13 in-person workshops, and I'll go through them in detail later on, where we have, given support to our developers with practical financial tools for them to be, financial savvy. Then the other one is, I think, one of the most important programs that we have currently, which is the CFO placement program. And I think we, have launched that with 10 companies enrolled and experienced CFOs, C-suite CFOs, going to integrate these companies very, very, very soon. And that is done in parallel with the AFDB CEFA CFO placement program, where we share insights with AFDB CEFA so that we don't, kind of, do the same thing, and we try and address the sector at large. Investor Database 2.0 is a database that is comprehensive, has got a lot of information for our members in terms of instrument types, in terms of ticket sizes, in terms of who is, funding the sector, for easy access and less time wasted for our developers to to go straight to the guys who have got the money. And then investor roundtable I mentioned earlier. I won't repeat that. Smart metering I mentioned. Co-designing RBF is something that is upcoming. We're thinking about it. We want to see how to do it. And I'm being told by my boss to hurry up. Sector-wide coordination, I think that goes without saying as well. It came into the room several times. So sector-wide coordination with governments is something that we're going to do very soon. Just a deep dive into the Capital Connect. I think I mentioned a few numbers, which I won't go back to, but you can see the impact of that kind of program, which we have done cohort 1 and cohort 2, where cohort 1 we had about 11 developers participating from 14 countries, 174 million total target of fundraising. And we've got 2 local currency funding deals have been closed thanks to that. For the other one, cohort 2, which happened, I think, a couple of months ago, we have, 9 mini-grids deploying across 9 countries, and we have FDP SEPA support on that one, where we have a total target of about 123 million, and, going quite well. Now, this is important, I think. The Mastery Finance series is something that we have, we really value, and thanks to our sponsors, Good Energies, AFDB CEFA, CCG, Strathmore, and UK Aid, PACE and NOMAP, who have really supported us in these workshops, where we've had about a total of about 12 workshops, 3 in-person and 9 virtual workshops. Mastering finance, mastering funding in mini-grids innovation, mastering valuation. We've had, you can see them there, mastering grant proposal writing, and that is so important because what we've noticed, even with the CFO program that we launched, some of the members are telling us, look, it's too complicated, the application process. And they have that perceived notion of the process being complicated when it is not. So in this kind of workshops, we take them through the process on how to apply and how to be, smart in terms of the application process and guarantee a success for their applications. So that it's not only the usual suspects that get, the grants. And then you've mastering due diligence for mini-grid projects, guarantees, and all that. So I'm being told to hurry up. We'll share these slides later on. And then the CFO placement program with Camco as our key partner. So you can thank Camco for this initiative. One executive search company that has been brought on board. This is a shortlist that is going to be assisting us in the search of the CFOs. We've got 5 CFOs that we're going to bring on board for 10 developer companies for 12 months. And we hope that in the end of the 12-month period, we will be able to have companies that can unlock capital, companies that can create profitable businesses and long-lasting capacity in the companies with the CFO Financial C-suite provision. Just to appreciate some of our donors that have facilitated some of our programs. I think that they are World Bank SMAP, AFDB, and the rest, Camco and CEDA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John, and really interesting work, obviously, by AMDA, supported by CEFA, and all of their donors. Okay, now we move into a coffee break. So we have coffee strategically just outside so we don't lose anyone. I actually saw a couple of people left and came back. So a round of applause for those people. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But